Okay, Jordan, here we are, year two. Year one, the team proved it can compete with the top teams in this division, which are really good teams. So here we are, year two. Just how have the expectations changed? How has the mentality changed here going into the season?
Yeah, I think look, last year was an incredible experience for all involved players, coaching staff, fans, those of us who have been waiting on women's soccer from our club for a long time. So, I think it was such an incredible finish to the season. But I think throughout the season we learned so much in such a short period of time. And we want to start off where we left off. We brought back a lot of the core of the roster because they did such a good job last year, and we want to continue kind of the building on the foundation they laid. But we also, we want to be winning the championship, and we want to be pushing to be the best. And so we wanted to add a few players to that roster that would bring the drive, the expectation, maybe from the outside that would match what is already there and the foundation laid.
Yeah, like you mentioned, a lot of returners coming back, solid experience that people know what to pull from. Also, some new players, a long list as expected. Just talk about what the mentality was with roster building, just things you kept in mind.
Yeah, I think first and foremost we kept the foundation in mind. I think Jess last year built a really good core with solid veterans, Sam, Miranda, Anar, even Layla, who's a veteran of the team, but not necessarily a veteran, right? So I think it was really cool and important for us to not, have any leakage there where somebody was looking at another opportunity, or if it was a professional like Jada or somebody else, like we totally understand that. But if you're going to be in Northern California and you're part of our core, you're going to be here. And so that was number one. And I think, last year at this time we were putting the finishing strokes on a roster, and this year at this time we've had a majority of that core training together for the last few weeks. But along with that, we needed to get we needed to add a few players. We also needed to add a few players for more consistency across the season. Last year there was a few of the colleges they were doing their foreign trip, and so that affected a couple of the options that we had in our sights for the roster last year. This year those players are with us a little bit more consistently, and then we needed to add a couple options up on top because we just needed a different dynamic sometimes. Like we wanted to have one or two players who could take people on the dribble differently, one or two players who could run in behind differently, but also in midfield we wanted to, one of the things we saw when we played against Glenn's or Cal Storm is that athleticism in midfield. We needed to add a few more that could compete. So if we weren't without one or two of our top players, we had one or two top players to kind of sub in. And then also, whenever you have a good year, you want to create competition for positions because it's one of the guards against complacency, right? You have some players who come in, had a good year last year and think, okay, I'm going to step in and I'm going to be a starter, and then they look to the right or the left and they're like, oh, she was playing with Bayern Munich a few months ago. Or she's doing, and that's an important dynamic for us. And look, I think we're going to do like Jess did last year, great job bringing all those pieces together. But I think in the roster build, we wanted to have options, which creates a level in training and a level game to game that players have to maintain.
You mentioned a lot there. Who are some new players we need to keep an eye
on? Well, Ari Veland is one. We're really happy to have Mana back. We've added one or two goalkeepers along with Layla that I think are going to push her as well. We added one or two outside backs, which was a position last year that we had to kind of tighten up, and then some options in midfield and the forward line. So we I think as players start to trickle in, you'll see a roster kind of for the first month or so, and then as all of the colleges kind of let out and things like that, then we'll see how it all kind of comes together.
Jordan, we just heard from Sam, and it was quite beautiful, her kind of regaining her love of soccer by working with kids, but also now working right over there in the Fruitvale district in a high school with 9th to 12th graders who need extra support, and how that she's, able to channel that as a leader on this team, as one of the veterans. And she said everybody has something to bring, and it was nice to hear that. What have you seen maybe from her as she begins another season here and as a captain to kind of instigate that mentality, that thoughtfulness, I guess?
Yeah, well, I think, it was interesting going into last year. I don't know if everyone knew what to expect from what Soul as a club would be.
Yeah.
And I think that the responsibility, after the home opener, which was one of the most incredible experiences of my life, seeing the showing of the outpouring of love from the fans in the community for Soul at Cal State East Bay, that was, I think that shifted some people's perspective. Now they've been able to live with that perspective for an entire year. And so I think going in, there's less like, oh, this is, just going to be fun. And the fun part is also tied to a little bit the responsibility part, right? She's now been a Soul player in the community for an entire year, and people recognize her. She's obviously won, Fans' Choice Award and some of these other things that come along with being a captain and leader on Soul. And so I think her play will show that determination, but also what she imparts to the newcomers or the players coming in from last year is a completely different perspective than she had last year at this stage. And we like that, right? Because it's an important thing for players to understand the responsibility that they have in terms of their performances and in terms of what the joy that they're bringing to the fans and the people that are in Oakland and the surrounding communities. And I think the work that she does, she feels that very differently. And so her passing that along to the locker room is really, really good.
It kind of seems to fit in with what we just heard Jess say as well, which is first is the culture. If you're going to be on this team, you have to fit our culture. And then it's about talent. So it's not just about talent. It's a whole theme of being part of something special and not just being a great player.
That's absolutely right. I like to embrace the genius of right? Okay. You can have an incredible culture that really fits the values of our club and brings out the best of our community, and also be talented players. Sam was and has been a really top player, and so that part, along with really kind of recognizing how the community views the vehicle that Soul is, that it's been interesting to see, some of people that she's known from the soccer community that are reaching out to her saying, hey, I see that you're having a ton of fun doing what you're doing. Tell me more about that, right? And I think that's a really cool thing to have a leader like Sam, to have somebody who can really guide the culture building process of Soul as a women's soccer institution. That's super important for the long term, not just the short term, right? The short term, we can make a lot of mistakes trying to, let's say, build a team that only thinks about beating everybody else for the title. But in the long term, we can set ourselves up for failure with chinks in the armor or chinks in the foundation as we progress to the professional level. And I think it's important for us to think, who do we want to be? What do we want players from here on out as they come to Oakland Soul to know is expected of them, to know the kind of baseline for the culture? And that's where I think people like her, Miranda, Anar, they also, the really cool thing is they are great examples of both, right? They are great examples of talented players who also want to build a really good culture here. A competitive culture, a fun culture, but also one that knows the responsibility to the values of the fans.
And spreading the word, right? It sounds like, Sam found out about the Soul on a Twitter feed, and now Jess has talked about the word of mouth and just people advocating for the Soul, and that goes a long way with bringing in new talent.
Oh, it's 100%. We all are hearing on too regular of a basis about the experiences of women's soccer players around the country, and I think that from day one was a really important thing to say, look, we want to be a place where the word that's being spread is that that's an incredible place to go, have fun, but also, grow as a player and grow as a person. And again, you can do both. And I think that we've done a really good job of building that as a foundation, and now is a really cool opportunity to add to that prior to making the step into the professional ranks.
How important was it, after the first season, for you to have Jessica come back for the second season? What do you think her impact was on the team last year? Why did you want to continue with Jessica?
Yeah, first of all, I thought she did an incredible job in year one. I still remember before the Glens game at home to finish the season, like how nervous she was, and it was, it's the nerves of a coach, which is totally natural. But she did such a good job preparing the team, and everybody was, I think, really up for that big moment for us, and the performance kind of showed that. But not only that, like, I saw her work day in and day out throughout the season, and it was such a good fit. So I think it was something that we didn't really wait too long or hesitate to take care of. Her wife actually just announced that she's moving to be a director of coaching down in Newark here in the 510, and so I think in her role then with Cal State East Bay as an assistant coach, she's become, since the end of last season till now, she's become way more entrenched in the neighborhood, and I think that speaks to her really wanting to kind of buy in here. But we have a ton of fun in the office every day, and it's not just that, it's the football conversation as well. And when you have somebody who's got the ship really headed in the right direction, you don't want to lose that. You want to make sure that you also provide her with extra tools to do the work of growing what is already